Hey, welcome to another week of Radio Melee. We got a brand new guest. It's KoDoRiN. Of course, it's been a long time coming. I saw KoDoRiN this weekend because we were at a tournament together. And we like to bring champs on when somebody's performing well.
Good.
Feels like they got the spotlight. Feels good, right?
Yep.
So we figured we'd get you on for our first Radio Melee. And I understand you two. Maybe you guys should talk about this, PP and KoDoRiN. I understand you two have done kind of like coaching sessions with each other.
About once or twice.
It goes way further back than that.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a lot of when people ask me like how did I get so good at Melee? I always start off with I got coached by some random guy. Well, not just coached. I just asked some random guy on Smashboards a lot of questions, and then it's funny. The most common response I get after that is like, "Oh shoot, he still responds on Smashboards." Every single year, and I always give the exact same response. Yes, he is still on Smashboards. You could in fact still ask him questions. And my first couple of years of playing this game, I just kept asking this guy in the middle of this picture frame. How do I get good? How do I get good? It's like maybe like 1,000 more times. How do I get good? And then the 1,001st time, like I started to understand. It's like, oh, this is how you get good.
What were the biggest takeaways as someone who was probably one of those people who was surprised that that Smashboards thread was still active?
The takeaways. I think it's probably asking PP how to get good. Why?
Once you know the process, it makes things a lot easier. You don't have to ask me anymore.
Yes, it's like, how do you get good?
You give a man a fish, you feed him for a day.
Right.
Yeah, you teach a man to fish, then
he can start beating face roll. It's huge.
Yeah.
Did that happen?
that was his first big win on face roll.
Nice. My first big win was probably on Squid, and then face roll immediately after in the same tourney.
Okay. Yeah. Beating Squid's pretty hard. Ledge dashes.
Yeah,
that's pretty
good. And then I still hit up PP some questions because I gotta learn how to fish professionally to be the best fisher in the world, not just any
old fisher.
Yeah,
right. You got to be a Bass Pro fisher.
Isn't that a video game?
Yes, it is. Shout out.
Okay. All right, just making sure.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, KoDoRiN and I have a little bit of history going on for several years now. From my perspective, he was I had a little Marth group that were asking me questions, and then one day he was like, "Yeah, I've started beating people on the SoCal PR," and I had no idea. I thought he was just another random dude. I was like, "Oh, well, this guy's doing good. That's great." Nice. And so I was like, "That's awesome." I was very happy to see that, and he's continued working with me even as I've gone into charging for coaching and everything. He's like, "Yep, this is still something I want to do," and we've continued on right through the beginning of this month, and maybe he'll change his mind next month. I can't.
Oh, you did a lesson this month.
Yes.
What did you guys talk about?
Still paying off.
Still paying off. What did you guys talk about this month? Am I allowed to ask? Do I have to? Do we have to get charged money?
$30 a month. I mean, you can if you want, PP. I don't care.
Oh, I'm trying to. Let's see.
Say it at a high level. You don't have to give away all the juicy secrets.
Yeah, I'm trying to, because I've had a hectic month. Let me see if I can. Give me one theme, KoDoRiN. Give me one theme that we talked about, because I usually only need you to say like one thing, and I get all of it back. But if we don't get there, we don't get there, and that's
if
fine.
we don't get there, we don't get there. That's all right.
Terrible full send approaches.
Oh, you talked about that?
That's right. I mean, we talked about Sheik. Yeah. So we were talking about.
Maybe I need to talk about PP. I feel like I do this a lot.
We were talking a lot about how we were talking more about how to handle crouch cancel, how to handle certain defensive plays, how to approach intelligently. Because Marth approaching isn't straightforward, like sort of Spaceys and sort of Falcon is. So we have to really figure that out, and KoDoRiN wants to round himself out more. He's got a lot of defense down very well. Wants to work more on the offense. And
on the offense,
yeah.
Dang.
So
it's a lot of
fun.
I didn't know KoDoRiN was had any. I guess we had this tournament this past weekend, which KoDoRiN graciously came up for, and it was really fun. It was the first tournament. I would say, shout outs to Homemade Waffles who put it on. I would say it was like the first tournament NorCal's had back. I mean, we've had some smaller locals in outside the Bay, kind of more like, okay, if you're going to say it in terms of SoCal, like we had tournaments in the equivalent of like 805 or San Bernardino or somewhere that's not so central, right? But we had some tournaments, kind of out that some people were going to, but this one was like Brandon wanted to make it like the Bay Area's return to having like tournaments, and it was a really cool venue. It was at like a theater.
It was
we
sick.
actually played the top 8 on the theater, which I actually kind of wanted to ask KoDoRiN about because it was like kind of an intense. Wasn't that kind of an intense venue for like a local? Like,
I don't know
playing
if
top 8 and it was on
felt more like a regional.
Regional, right?
Yeah.
It felt more like a regional. Yeah, there was like 100 people.
Yeah,
but
plus,
like you'd
bunch
never imagine playing a local and you've got your match next to you on this giant movie projector.
Yeah, it was badass. Not gonna lie.
I was gonna ask, did it feel badass? That's really cool.
Because
Yeah,
like
I think
I'm used to like competing in like the big stage at this point, so
Right,
that didn't really phase me. Plus, having headphones helps a ton.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Actually, I always use that to strategically decide who I want to cheer for. Because if one player has headphones and the other one doesn't, I'm like, okay, if I cheer for the one that doesn't have headphones loud enough, they're gonna like me more as a person because they'll be like, oh, Toph's cheering for me, and then the other person's not gonna be able to hear me. So for me, it's a win-win, right? So
you can cheer in between games when they have to pause to talk to the person too. You can kind of get your pick.
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't even thought about CPP. That's why I need to.
Yeah,
Sounds
that's
like
a great Patreon plug right there. Huh?
Yeah, $30. $30. But no, it was dope, and KoDoRiN did win. I don't think you dropped the set.
Nope.
And that was pretty sick, just because I think for the Bay Area, like for NorCal Melee, and for Homemade Waffles, I think he really wanted to put on a pretty special one for the first tournament back. Like he wanted to hype it up. And I think it feel
I could definitely feel like how much effort he put towards it. Like, it's just like it was like a regional. He really didn't have to do that whole theater setup. Like, I was happy just like playing upstairs in like the typical venue, and then like the theater setup was like something extra. I'm like,
agreed.
Damn. And did well overall. I'm not gonna lie, I did wish that Spark and Face Roll could have made it to me, but
those are the people that would have posed the challenge.
Yeah, and instead, Azel Sheik, it's pretty good, but like obviously not at their level. And it's like it's still though like being able to still like beat Azel Sheik somewhat convincingly. Still a lot of little things to improve upon, but like I do think that shows my progress, and I'm gonna get my chance again at Smash Camp, where both Spark and Face Roll are entered. So hope I can meet them in bracket.
That's
I don't want to dodge. I don't want to dodge those guys. I want to.
Yeah.
Use PP to effect.
Shouldn't be a question. There shouldn't be a question. There should be a question. Yeah.
Yes.
There should be no what ifs. Right.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that attitude too. Man,
because like I don't look forward to tournaments where like I'm like the very, very heavy favorite. I want there to be like a very big obstacle on the way. Like more than anything, like I don't care about the money. I don't care about the fame and prestige. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I do care a little bit. If it's $1 million prize pool, look, give it to me. But what I care mostly about, like my 90% motivation for entering a tournament, is seeing how stacked it is. And if I see that, for instance, I'm kind of jealous that I'm not entering today's TMT. There's very very stacked names in both brackets, and it's
you are TOing it. And shout outs to you in FlyQuest for putting that on.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. So okay, hang on. So I heard Plup, I heard HBox. Who else is
Moki, IBDW, Fiction.
Dang.
I'm like,
you know what's funny, by the way? It's so funny. I was talking to Fiction, and he was saying, it's so funny how, he's like, Fiction's like, I enter like every tournament, and no one gives me any props for it. Moki, because the whole thing was Moki made this video. Yeah, Moki. That's true. Because that's almost like they take it for granted. But it's funny how Moki was. I think this was the hot topic of at least last week, was Moki basically calling out some top players and saying, well, people should enter more. We don't have a developer that is really like, I don't know, patching the game or or doing anything to inject like artificial hype or anything like that. Like it's up to the community we have to do everything, right? So for the top players, like, you know, pretty much the game lives and dies by what we do. And then it was funny how, you know, Fiction was like, well, I had everything. Like,
I don't get money. I don't get all that fame. At the very least, you gotta at least accept my pride.
Right.
Because that's what Melee runs off of. It runs off of pride and shame. That I learned from the Great Blur.
The Great Blur, that's right. The Great Blur, the Great Blurrism. The best way to get people to enter your tournament is either with pride or with shame. Oh, the best way is with money, but not everyone. You know, we don't have that much of that. So
yeah.
In lieu of that, we make do with pride and shame.
Dude, imagine getting like the top league teams to enter like a grassroots tourneys for like $1,000. It's like they're gonna laugh at you for that.
I assume so, right? I mean, I assume so. They get, you know, they don't need to, but we got to work with what we got. Like, I had a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you enter TMT sometimes?
I used to.
You used to?
Yes, I used to TO and enter at the same time at the beginning because like I was just more so of a player in the past than anything else. Like my TOing experience was somewhat limited. So, and like commentary as well. I used to enter, like especially like the first 30 TMTs. I would enter and play at the same time and regret it every single time, but I knew why I was entering. It was so I could boost the entrance name. But over time, I kind of got like, I wanted to focus more on commentary a little to kind of develop myself more. And also, for like the last 3 months, my internet was just actually really bad. Like I did want to enter some TNTs, but I got screwed over
the tweet
through a certain internet service provider. I'm not gonna name who, but they actually fixed it this last month. And for now, I'm still not entering TNT because like we still have to like iron out a lot like the little details and like the little chinks here and there, plus commentating a little. But I do intend that like at some point, like I do want to enter my own TMTs because look at this exact name. I want to play Plup.
Yeah, you want to play Plup.
I want to play SJ. I want to play Plup. I want to play Fiction. I want to play SP.
Man. You know, it's funny now that you mention it. I actually had a nightmare last night. I had a bad dream. And my bad dream was that I had really bad internet and I was trying to play online games. And I was, for some reason, I was trying to play Overwatch, which I guess is part of the nightmare. And I remember I headshot someone and it didn't register like the shot until like 3 seconds later. And I was like, oh my God, I can't play video games anymore. I can't play Melee. I can't even play Overwatch. I'm so...
That would be my nightmare as well.
It was. And then I woke up and I was like, okay, back to reality. But I'm glad your internet got better. But my question to you is, because this is actually a very practical question that I have, which is that for me, since I've started commentating TMT every week, and I am going to be commentating at 4:30 with Scar. Yeah. So I guess we'll be doing the East Coast block this week. But my question is, you know, since I'm kind of commentating TMT every week, you know, I actually had this idea recently that I would start trying to enter one net play tournament a week. But I can't really do TMT anymore since I'm commentating it. So what have you done to fill that void for yourself as a player? Are there other net play events that you have started entering in lieu of TMT, or you're just going to your like IRL tournaments more?
I attend like plenty of SoCal locals. I guess like this last month I've been slacking, but before that, like, you know, I've entered every lawless except for the last one. And it's a decent amount. Like I've been kind of slacking this last month because I've been super busy with a lot of things. But I do enter my locals. I enter my pizza times. I enter my lawless. And just literally last weekend, I went to that NorCal tourney, and this weekend I am going to Smash Camp. Yes, I have been keeping myself very active. And you know, I promised Cody in exchange for him entering my TNT, I'm entering his Giga Schwab tourney. So that's a little deal that we made. I'm gonna be entering some prominent net play tourneys, and I still find that I'm like the best I've been as a player. So like I still gotta like still keep it up and still repeat my process of improving and all.
Are you okay, but you're not doing as many net play tournaments, I suppose.
I guess I've been like chilling it a little with net play, which is why like eventually like I do want to enter my own TNTs because I do think it's like best one out of like every other online weekly. I suppose like I would enter some garbage connections that Trader Trashman runs, but for the most part, it's like I'm going where the competition goes. Like, does SCJ and Fiction enter these West Coast online tourneys? And usually the answer is no, which is why like I want to enter my own TNTs at some point. Like
because those are the ones
like,
that people enter.
Month. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And dude, I want to play him so badly.
Yeah, like his Plup. Like, how did that happen? How'd you get Plup to enter?
I didn't do anything. I think he's like running a subathon right now. I was like, I'm just gonna enter TNT. I was like,
just needed stuff to do. Nice
content.
Did he just do a subathon, by the way?
Yeah, that's what Plup's doing right now.
Wow. I wonder.
I think it's still going.
All right. I wonder why. I wonder like it's just from the sense of I feel like they've got to be so exhausting.
Yeah, they're tough, man.
Have you done one, PP?
No, but everyone I've seen talk about it is like it's terrible. Don't do it. That's what they all say.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it makes a difference if it's like a capped subathon or not. I assume that that's kind of the differentiating factor.
There's the 24-hour stream, and then there's the uncapped subathon, and I think one of those is at least somewhat doable, and one of those is a crazy person's errand.
Yeah, a fool's errand.
Well, you do get a lot of money.
You do get a lot of money. This is facts.
That's like a trade-off, I would say.
It is a trade-off.
That's a motivator.
A trade-off, depending on what you value.
Yeah, it's a melee player trade-off, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
But before we go too far down this path in the trades, we do need to at least remind you guys out there listening, !Radio Melee in my chat and Toph's chat. So you can follow the link there, come into the server, ask questions for KoDoRiN, whether they're about Marth or being the new gen or TOing or anything else that you want to ask him. He's got a lot of experiences that I think he could really share with you all and benefit with you guys. So !Radio Melee, roll through on that. And
it is very easy.
Yeah, and
I want to add that anyone who asked, we had a lot of questions. As always kinds of happens, we get a lot of questions towards the end of the show, and then by then we can't really. So get in early, because a lot of the people that ask, it's like we get like a surge of questions at the end, and then it's like we can't get to you. But also too, if you were one of the people that asked a question last week, you should come ask the same question. Like there's no especially if we didn't get to you, you might as well come through. And if it's we get a lot of good questions that we don't get to, so you might as well just keep asking them. And we do notice, and we'll try to prioritize those. So
absolutely,
just to throw that out there. Yeah.
And while we're getting prepared to have a caller come in, we do have one other thing we can go over, and that is the community voice.
Yes,
that's right. We had
the voice of the community.
That's right, and we also have the voice of Fiction adding to this. And his question, I believe, for us last week was, which would be better, Fox with Falco laser or Falco with Fox movement frame data.
Oh god, let's see what the people are saying. You can take the first one, PP.
All right, so we got Hotshot saying, I feel like if double laser isn't on the table for Fox, which Fiction and I did talk about and clarify, Falco clearly gets the W by getting Fox's movement. He's already got such a complex combo game that just expands with that kind of speed. Add on to the fact that Falco could effectively camp just about every character in the game with movement and lasers too, but that would be in Fox's favor too. Yeah, that's one of the challenges. Like, I was thinking about this last night, what the differences actually are, and most of like the neutral is basically the same because it's the same speed and you get the same lasers. So you have to kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about this question.
Yeah, that was the one question that I think we had was about, like, first of all, the double laser and yeah, I kind of think that a Falco that can just bully his way across the stage, and it's just such a big buff for him that it's such a big buff for Falco.
It's an insane buff for Falco. I think it's insane for Fox too, but I was thinking about it. The main thing that Falco gets, outside of just making his combos way better, is his shield pressure is borderline broken now because
that's true. Yeah,
because he's got a shine that's way stronger than Fox's, but he's still got the low jump squat. So his shield pressure is crazy, even with staling, which is nuts.
Well, hold on for a second. So the question I'm understanding is, what if Fox got Falco's laser, and what if Falco got Fox's traits, right?
Yeah, his movement traits. So like jump squat, full hop, frames, stuff like that.
So does that mean
Mhm.
that Falco could just short hop double laser?
I don't think
No, because the
so.
laser's a lot slower. Falco's laser's a lot slower. So he
Yeah.
can't double laser.
Oh, so what about Fox getting Falco's laser? Is that like
So it's also
awesome?
not a double laser. So I talked to Fiction about that, and it was like because
That's
they're
the
good.
question.
So Fox and Falco are going to have the same short hop here in this case, right? Because Falco's getting Fox's stuff. So that means that neither of them, and if both of them could double laser, it wouldn't matter, right? Because they would both have it. But in this case, there's just going to be one laser.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think I'm on the side of the fence of I'd rather take the Falco moveset. I like the way Aoi Machine Gun is talking about it, which is basically, would you rather Falco's full moveset or just the laser? And he's suggesting that the really tempting move here is Shine, and I agree. I think the nice thing about Shine is that
I think Falco also has down air. That's really good.
Yeah, down. That's true. That's
and
definitely
like
true.
Falco's gonna follow up off his throws way better because he's gonna have less jump squat and he's also gonna accelerate upward faster. So I actually think that it's gonna make his tech chasing off of throws really good. I think because I was thinking about this a lot. I actually think this is really good for Falco. But yes, this person's right that Fox's up smash, up air, and especially Shine for Gimps is gonna be what Fox has going for him.
Yeah,
Fox has a kill power.
Fox has the kill power. Yeah, I do think that like with this question, the big thing to consider, especially with the Falco Shine, is that and the downer is that like with Fox, like Fox pressure is faster, but the trade-off usually is that like Fox kind of has to like if you hit a stray Shine during your pressure, like they let your shield down or they go for like a out of shield option, you clip them with the Shine. You usually like can't really hit confirm it. Like if you've decided to continue pressuring, like say you go for like Shine grab, then if the Shine hits, you're pretty much not going to get the grab. They're going to slide away, maybe go to the ledge or something. But in that situation with Falco, if you hit a Falco Shine, typically if your Shine ever connects, you can usually convert it. So
and you're going to have less jump squat, so it's going to be even easier.
And you're going to have less jump squat, exactly.
And you're going to accelerate faster because you're full hop. You have Foxes now.
Here's the question: Is it sucky that you have lost because Falco when he full jumps he goes to the moon. You do lose that, right? You don't go as high now. You
do lose that, but
it's like fine.
Imagine that you up throw someone and they don't get hit by the lasers, and Falco's usually too slow to follow up, like on a middleweight like Martha Sheik at like 50 or something. Just as an example, and maybe you can follow up sometimes, but not always. If you have two less jump squat and you go up so much faster, you're going to be able to hit them every time. If you could hit them with down air, you're going to get a much better combo than Fox gets. I don't know if you can or not, but if you could do that even sometimes, that's crazy. And that's such a good punish out of your crazy shield pressure, out of your crazy movement, out of your crazy laser. So yeah, Fox might be better at killing, but Falco's going to be better at all the other stuff before that.
I'm with that. So I'm kind of on the Falco side of the fence on this one.
Yeah, you two are the spacey mains, so I trust your instinct with this one.
Which one would you rather fight more? Less? Yeah.
Which one would I fear more?
Yeah. Maybe fear is the wrong word.
It's fighting a very fast Falco would be very, very scary.
Yeah, so yeah. There you have it, gamers.
There you have it.
That's a fun question though. Really glad. I think that's the most I've had to spend thinking about one of the community voices.
Because like part of what makes me comfortable against this Falco, most Falco players, is the fact that he's not very fast. So like I'm able to like wall him out pretty comfortably. And if he's just like actually like his dash stance actually is like much wider, much faster, it's like, oh my, I think like that might be like the scariest character ever. SS tier.
Yeah, I mean now you can mix empty land and full hop waveland with falling laser out of full hop. Yikers.
Yeah, that is nuts. That is very nuts.
But yeah, good question. We're ready to take our first caller, looks like.
I think so. Oh snap, hi.
What's up? Where are you calling in from?
Oh snap hi or oh snap Hawaii?
Pretty sure it's hi, but I would love clarification.
Oh, so it is the... Oh yeah, it's Snap.
You just want to be Snap? Do you not want to be oh snap hi?
Well, I usually go by Snap.
Okay, fair enough. Easy. What's up, Snap? Where are you calling in from, and what's your question for us today?
So I feel like I've since I've talked to both you, PP, and KoDoRiN, about some mentality related, you know, things like tips. My question was there ever an instance in which you were facing a bracket demon or you were down 0-2 and you came out on top? What allowed you to come out on top, whether that be a change in mentality or otherwise? Because, PP said like reframing your mentality, when you're nervous as excitement or, like KoDoRiN suggested, both of you suggested, um, what is it? The inner game of tennis and just, trusting your body. But was there anything when you were kind of in the heat of battle that you changed to make you come back, in a set?
Dude, the
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, we can go first, KoDoRiN, please.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to like, we're talking in perspective that like you want to win, and like what you need to do to win is actually having a plan on how to win. I think that's like the first and foremost thing is like, do you actually have a plan on beating this guy? And if the answer is no, no matter what, you're not beating them. You're not making reverse 3-0. The reason why reverse 3-0s even happen is because like there's usually like a solid plan behind it, where it's like usually the reason why you go 0-2 if you have a plan is because like you're just not executing the right thing, or it's like you're just being a little stupid, but like like the out. And it's all about trying to focus on that. And then, of course there's barriers outside of that where it's like, okay, well, what's preventing you from doing it if you can't do it? And then that's where like a lot of the other mental stuff can come to play. But the first and foremost question is, do you actually have a plan or not to like beat this guy no matter what? Like no matter how much of a deficit you are, what's the game plan?
Mm-hmm. So you mean just like specifically sticking to the game plan, or just like, I mean, obviously picking up on their habits too, but just having like a really solid, like in terms of stages and like
your overall gameplay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Weren't you saying, wasn't there somebody you fought recently, KoDoRiN, where because sometimes the game plan changes mid-set, right?
Yeah.
And weren't we talking really recently, maybe like a week ago or something, maybe a week and a half ago?
I mean, I
There's
could
a
bring up
set-
an example where
Bring up
like
an example, yeah.
like at the third Lawless, I was down 0-2 against S2J in winners finals. And I remember like in that moment, I was like, dude, I actually know what I have to do to win. I'm just not moving very well right now. And I know that if I can move well, because like movement matters a lot versus Falcon. If I know if I could move well, I could beat this guy. And that's all I focused on was like channeling like, okay, if I just at least use the first two games as warm up, because I could immediately tell in like the first couple of interactions I was not moving well, and I just spent those first two games being like, I just need to move a little better, and then as soon as I felt comfortable moving a little better by game 3, I already knew like a reverse 3-0 was on the table.
Was possible. I've actually been there, like where because people do different things when they're it's like sometimes a game is a foregone conclusion, you're getting four stocked or whatever. I just always think about that time Mewtwo King just started like practicing tech skill. But sometimes I do literally say to myself, like, okay, I'm gonna I mean, sometimes it's just like whether you want to call it like collecting data or even just like warming up. It can be kind of effective. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I knew why like I needed to make certain changes, because like, the reason why Marth moving against Falcon is so important is because his hurt box makes it so that if you're dash dancing, Falcon has a hard time hitting Marth. So that's why I knew that like moving a little better was very, very necessary to make a reverse 3-0. As well as like, I guess like also like not giving up at all. Like I knew like having some kind of belief in my game plan would help out a ton.
Nab, what do you think? What brings this question? I'm kind of curious from your perspective. Do you feel like your mentality is holding you back in these sorts of situations, or
Yeah. So I mean, I have always been really interested in the mentality aspect. I feel like it's such a I don't say underrated, but under like it's not spoken about.
Discussed. Yeah.
Yeah, under discussed topic. And I mean, I'm not anyone that is making reverse 3-0s to where it's like significant, like I'm upsetting someone or like making it really far in the bracket. But I was just interested in personal stories of all three of you, whether some type of like Armada Leffen comeback or something, like, just like was it the set where like he took like a minute break and he like, I don't say iced him out, but he, like and then and did he make that comeback, like some type of comeback like that?
Well,
right?
he force talked him.
Right.
And
Yeah,
ultimately did not win the set though.
Oh, he didn't win that set?
That's
No.
correct.
Okay. Well, yeah, but something where just like whether it was just even a game or like a whole set. I'm just interested in the mentality aspect of like what brings about comebacks, I guess, or at least for what was effective for you guys.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about that, PP?
Oh, I
Uh,
think he
uh,
disconnected.
uh,
Yeah. Was there an instance for you, Toph, in which
I mean, I definitely think that like, and it's for me, it's definitely, it's. I'm trying to think if there's any really prominent examples. I would say more at locals than anything. But sometimes it's as easy as like, sometimes another big factor is honestly just the momentum thing. Like, because yeah, a lot can change over like one little thing going differently, right? And I always feel like, especially in situations where if you go down 0-2, but then you're able to tie it up 2-2, I always feel like you have a little bit of pressure going into that last game because they're kind of thinking like, oh dang, they won the last two. So even though it feels like you're down, what I try to remind myself is like, okay, even though I'm down this much, if you can win, it's like, yeah, it sounds really daunting to be like you have to win 3 games in a row. But then on the flip side, if you win, maybe it sounds kind of stupid, but it's like if you win 2 games in a row, you're actually already in a really good spot. Maybe barring the counterpick stages, of course. Sometimes in some matchups, like okay, if you beat Marth twice on FD, that kind of sucks. But it's the whole aspect of like taking it one game at a time and just trying to figure out like, yeah, if there's one thing, like KoDoRiN said, maybe it's the movement in the Falcon matchup, or like maybe you're fighting someone and you're not accounting for like a certain, maybe they're full jumping a lot. Like okay, I didn't end up winning the set, but like I played Azel in tournament this weekend, and I remember game 1 I got like blown out of the water. And I realized very quickly where Fox are doing, and I realized very quickly like he's full jumping a lot more and a lot better than I am, and I keep losing this interaction where I'd be like playing very grounded, and he would like just kind of come down on me with either a full jump drill or like a full jump bear or nair. And so I really tried to, and so like for me in that moment, I was like, okay, like I know how I might be able to play around this if I was feeling like really sharp, like I would go for more whiff punishes on his landings. But he's mixing up his drifts pretty well, and we're playing stages with platforms anyway, so like a lot of the time he can bail out by wave landing the platform. So what I basically told myself for the rest of the set is like, okay, well, if he is in a position where he could full jump against me, I am gonna just peace out. Like I'm just like I'm gonna work on that in the long term, but like work on the whiff punish. But for now, I'm just gonna back off and like just not deal with that range. Like if he full jumps, like great, like he can have that space. I'm gonna back off. Maybe I even get some laser damage or something, but I'm just gonna like play it slower. And I didn't win the set, but like after that, like after getting steamrolled game 1 because that one interaction was going really poorly, the rest of the set was a lot closer, and the interactions were going a lot more like evenly. Off of just one little thing that I noticed, right? So I think that's really big, is like even when you get blown up, like being able to understand why it happened, and like if you can change one thing, because sometimes in a tournament set, if you had all the time in the world, yeah, you could go and prepare and like kind of lab out some answers, but if over the course of a tournament set, sometimes you just have to make you just have to like do something like you just have to think of an easy something you can do in that moment, because you don't have all the time in the world to prepare. You're already in the set. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna work on the whiff punish on full jump. I'm gonna think about like more direct counterplay to full jump when I'm at home and when I can practice. For now, I'm just gonna get out of there. So sometimes it's basically like, what do I have in my toolkit right now that is gonna be at least a good enough answer? And sometimes that's enough to like kind of change how a set's going.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, I like that answer. Welcome back, PP.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about that, guys.
No, it's all good.
We're just talking about bad internet. Was it your internet?
No, it's my computer. It's been doing this weird thing. I'm not going to get into it. But
yeah, that's fine.
Anyway, I can answer quickly here.
Yeah.
So I think the main thing that happens when you're kind of going down 0-2, that I've kind of, if you want to make a change, is you get into a certain rhythm, and there's a certain thing you're kind of trying to do, and it's kind of not working. I mean, I think that's kind of been the theme that both KoDoRiN and Toph have been talking about here. And stepping out of that, I think there are probably 2 main ways that I've done it. The first one that I use primarily now is I think about I'll take a second and I'll pause. I'll just say, okay, what is actually happening in terms of like how I feel like the timing of things are going. And I'll just kind of like, I'll go in my head and I'll imagine, okay, so it's like this, and then it's like this, or it's like this, or, you know, however I imagine it, right? And I'll say, okay, so then I need to move in time with that, and because I'm trying to force things a certain way. And that's the main thing that sort of will get me to make a major adjustment. Even if I don't know exactly how to beat what they're doing all the time, I can at least kind of move and be kind of where I need to be more often. And so that's something that I've just done for a while. But really the only other thing, and this is a little bit more, I guess, anime momenty, but sometimes you just
people love those.
They do. And
You
I
ever
think
push your glasses up? Sorry.
I do. I mean, it's kind of funny if a lot of people that wear glasses, whenever you push start and the game's loading, everyone does this. Yeah. And so it's kind of fun to watch everyone that has glasses do it. If you're wearing a mask, sometimes you adjust the mask. That's
yes,
fun.
yep.
So I love watching that. But the other thing that you can do to kind of reset yourself is, you know, bring emotion into it. And for me, unfortunately, that might have been anger in the past. But you know, whatever you want to draw on, and KoDoRiN was kind of referencing this as well, saying focus on the win or you know, return to what's important to you, things like that. And that's another way to do that, maybe in a healthier way. But you know, if you get, maybe you just need like that surge of focus, right? And emotion can really get you there. So those two things I think are really important.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because you mentioned the anger thing, and it's funny because for me, whatever the emotion is, but it's funny because for me, you know, I've tried to do that, but I've always found that I play worse if for me specifically, if I try to use anger as a motivator,
it's
or
risky.
like, F this guy. It's right, because like you might
just give all the way into it, and then you're just clouded, and then
and you're running in too much or something. Yeah. For me, I get nervous when I try to use. So yeah, for me, I have to find. That's actually, maybe I should pick your brain about this sometime later, because I actually want to ask about other emotions to dig into.
Yeah, that's a good topic. Yeah,
it is, right.
Yeah.
Altering your emotional or psychological state to try to play better in the moment. Anyway, yeah.
I want to conclude this by saying that I do think overall people do get so like kind of super romantically attached to like this whole like mentality, like, oh, this is my moment kind of thing, when in reality 95% of the time you're not going to do it. And I'd say like the much more, I guess, practical way to think about this is what can you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, sure.
Like, that's like you're really trying to think about the long term rather than this one singular moment.
Right. And long term, I need to get angrier so I can do better. I understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to clarify, like, this is definitely all really good advice, and like, definitely something to take away. This isn't something that I'm like encountering. I feel like I'm either getting like
You're
Swift
more curious
3
about it.
Yeah, like I wanted to hear like more like personal experiences. Like,
Yeah.
was there a big like set for you, PP or KoDoRiN or even Toph, like you just came back, like a specific set, you know, that you're proud of, that is like, it's like, oh man, like this person's always had my number, like face roll for, you know, KoDoRiN or something, or you know,
yeah,
was
it
there
did
like
happen a few times.
If you want, well, gosh. I'll just tell you about the one where I had to pause and think. I don't really want to talk about sets where I get angry anymore. It's not, I don't think that's beneficial. So the one that I paused and I thought, and maybe even used the last game for some information, or the last couple of games for information, was the Armada finals at Apex 2015. I could kind of tell he was coming in hot, and he was playing the matchup pretty well, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to need more information about how he's playing the platform in order to win. And so, you know, I took some time in between sets or something like that, and I said, okay, well, he gets on the platform, and then he'll do like this, or he'll wait and do this, or, you know, and then he'll do this, and then this, or whatever, right? And then once I had that information, I was like, okay, well, what can I do that beats most of those things? And then I kind of went with that, and then the rest of my game plan shifted around that, and it worked a lot better for me.
Oh,
interesting.
Do you have like a top player win, Toph, under your belt that you're like really proud of, or that you came back on?
That it specifically came from being down 2-0?
I think he
Yeah,
just more so means like being down.
Yeah, I mean, like I could just
or just down. Yeah, I suppose down. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for
I
me,
do. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, like for me, I'm not gonna name his name, but there was an incident where like I was down 4 stocks to 1 against this certain Fox player, and like it was off stream. No, very few people actually know about this. Only 5 people in SoCal knows about this comeback, but it was like at a SoCal regional, and I made this 4 stock comeback, and like I thought that like probably like the wildest comebacks I made when even I myself did not believe I could make it. It was like when I was down 4 stocks, I was like, this is over. There's like no way I could do this. But you know, slowly but surely, as I made like one move where like it actually did something, I was like, hold on a second. As I kind of get like this little confirmation, despite truly believing that I was like done for at some point. And then I kind of get these little trickles that like kept that forced me to hold on this emotion of hope that somehow kept me pushing forward, and I kept going, and then somehow it came to like last stock, last hit, and I barely clutched it. Like I remember like falling down to the floor after that.
Dang.
Yeah, but very few know about it, but it was probably like one of the most iconic comebacks I ever made.
Well, that sucks for Gio.
No, it was not Gio.
I tried.
That'd have been crazy.
What? My favorite almost comeback story that I had was, man, I really wish we closed it out. God, it was actually a teams moment. It was me. I was teaming with Alvin, aka L, and we're teaming against SFAT and Shroomed at a local.
Oh.
And I'd never seen this before. I've never seen, to my knowledge, it's never been done in a recorded set. We were actually down. It was game 3, and it was best 3, and we were actually down 8 stocks to 2, and we almost won. We got them down. Wow. We actually got them down to last stock, both of them. So we actually got them from 2 stocks to 8. I've never seen it done in teams. I've never seen, people have seen 4 stock comebacks. Right. I don't think an 8 stock comeback has ever happened, to my knowledge. And we actually got them down to last stock and last stock each. But we were at such a high percent at that point that they were able to close it out. I'm sad about that one because I don't think it's ever happened. But that was cool because we were actually like, we started really talking to each other. We were like, dude, like, no, this is possible. We can do it, kind of thing. Because, obviously in singles, there's the mentality aspect. In doubles, it's like, it's that coupled with the fact that you can talk out loud to your teammate. So it kind of like, what's the word? It adds an element of, I guess, verbalization, right? Yeah. Or communication, if you will. That wasn't, I mean, we didn't close out the comeback, but like it was pretty intense. I will say most of my like wins on top players and stuff, usually they're not from being down. I've made longer adjustments where someone's beaten me a couple tournaments in a row, and then I like worked on things and then figured out the matchup or whatever, and then I was able to beat them. But I feel like those are a lot less mentality and a lot more like coming with a better game plan. So I don't know that I have any super pertinent stories. But I will say that, I will say that the, like KoDoRiN said, I think it can be summarized as taking it one stock or even one hit at a time. And also, like figuring out what you can do specifically to beat the thing that's beating you. Because sometimes it's a lot of things and you don't really have any hope. Like they're just outplaying you on multiple levels, but sometimes it really is just one little thing that you need to change. So.
Right. Yeah. No, I definitely feel that last part. Like it, if you're getting 4 stocked, then there's no hope for you. But like, there's that one thing that could just honestly blow the gate open in terms of like, how even it is. So no, I feel that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think it's a good question. We've certainly covered a lot of ground here. So thank you for calling in, Snap. Do appreciate it. You got any shout outs for us on your way out today?
Yeah. So shout outs to Golden Guardians.
Heck yeah.
Shout outs to everyone here. I know PP and KoDoRiN do coaching, so check them out.
Big facts.
Shout outs to the PP Cord. And yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
All right.
See ya.
See ya.
See you. looks like we got another caller ready to go. And we got Mav. What's up? Where are you calling in from? What's your question for us today?
I'm calling in from SoCal.
Oh, very
Yo, let's go.
SoCal.
SoCal, best region.
SoCal. Do you know Mav, KoDoRiN?
I do not.
No, I'm
Oh.
a first-time caller.
Well,
Oh.
welcome to the show. What's your
Welcome.
question for us today?
I really appreciate Golden Guardians and everything they've done for the Melee scene.
Thank you.
awesome.
Especially the show, which kind of leads me and a bunch of other events that have been happening within the scene to ask this. Should we as Melee players encourage competition in the competitive platform fighting scene to coexist alongside Melee, let alone other Smash games? Or should we prioritize trying to get more people to play Melee?
Well, you're asking a very biased question to me, a Melee player.
And
where
Melee
I'm
TO.
You were just gonna say play Melee. Yeah.
If I were to take like an objective thought to it, that's a lot harder.
Well, feel free to. I'm basically asking this in the position of as Melee players. We have a lot of types of people here. We have a new not a new player, but somebody who is like rising up quite well, and also representing SoCal really well. And we have someone who was really good, incredible, in fact, one of the best players in the past, and we have somebody who has been involved in the scene ever since its beginning. So I want to see, like, what should we do as Melee players, ultimately?
You're saying to get people into Melee, like, what's the best approach, right? That's what it sounds like your the crux of your question is.
I'm saying, like, I'm trying to ask, like, should we, because we basically are the leading type of players and leading game in a very kind of lonely esport genre.
Yes.
So, should we kind of should we grow the esport genre by encouraging competition or getting people to play Melee?
It's an interesting question when you, especially if you talk about, you're saying the genre is lonely, and that kind of shifted my thinking on it because I was kind of like, well, maybe it could help, maybe it couldn't, I don't know. But if I turn my head on it a little bit, like maybe there's something like if we kind of gave Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl a boost when it came out, and maybe that, and it ended up not having the legs that Melee had anyway. But if let's say every time a platform fighter came out, if we did that every time, well, maybe a game would come out that would be more popular in a certain way than Melee would have more sponsored players or something. Just something to think about it, because they're going to keep being made. It seems like they're only getting more popular and more people are making them. Maybe it does benefit us to continue working with them and promoting them and everything like that, in the hopes that it sort of benefits the genre as a whole. That even the way we think about ways to change Melee in the, I don't know, 20 or 30 years eventually, when we have to start maybe thinking about that, if depending on court cases and whatever. But maybe whenever we start trying to do that more, we learn from our experiences and our ventures into platform fighters. There's good reason to do it. The only challenge, I think, is that if we are spending so much on, I mean, we struggled, like the beginning of the episode, I'm remembering this, is we were like, we can't even get Melee players to play Melee in tournaments a lot of the time. I don't know how we're going to get them to always be, playing a bunch of other things, but maybe if it pops off on their stream, then maybe it does work. So maybe that is something to consider. It's hard for me to say how likely or possible it is, but there is some chance of it being good. And I think regardless, it's an important question, as I think the platform fighter genre will grow.
Yeah, and I guess the question that I have is, what do you mean by should? Should from what perspective? Like, should implies that I think there's two ways you use the word should, right? Should can either imply like a responsibility, or it can imply that there's something to be gained. Should I do this because it's good for me? Because I have something to. Which should are you using here?
I'm asking in the responsibility aspect, because we are the leaders in the whole genre.
I do want to bring up that part of how I got to know Melee where it is partly because of PM. Like Project M was like I think was secretly the big boost for Melee, and the fact that that was kind of used as a gateway of a lot of people. What like because I think PM was like the closest, like was the closest type of game to sort of match Melee's feel.
Yeah,
like
of
no
course.
other game, in my opinion, is even remotely close. Like Nickelodeon tried, I guess, and then, like subsequent Smash games, but it was really
Rivals.
PM that was even like an idea that like this is very similar to Melee in so many regards. Like obviously it's not Melee, but the fact that that coexisted and kind of did boost Melee a huge ways from personal experiences and from what I've seen from VODs, it also popped off in that regard. I could tell certain incidents, but I mean, I think like coexisting with games similar in that regard, because like I do think that like when we're comparing like Melee and Ultimate and Nickelodeon, they're vastly different games than Melee to the point where it's like, yes, we do fall under the same genre, but it's like not even the same at all. Where it's like there's like some crossover, sure, but I think it's like 10 to 20% crossover. When PM it was like a 50% or more crossover.
Yeah, I do feel like platform fighters are so different from each other in a way that, for example, 2D fighters aren't. And I think you see it with how, I don't know. I just feel like for me, you can try to promote other, like ultimately people are going to be interested in what they're interested in. And I think that like, as Melee players, I just don't think you can fake hype. And so like for, I think for people that want to play other fighting or other platform fighters, they want to play other platform, whatever their game of choice may be. And Melee players want to play Melee. And I think that like from maybe a content aspect or from the aspect of like doing cool collaborations and stuff like that, I think there's something to be said for trying to, I don't know, doing things like when we play NASB at Golden Guardians or whatever. But I think it's really hard to artificial, like if me and PP just start making a bunch of videos of like NASB, like I don't think that induces a huge wave of interest into NASB. I think the people that want to play NASB are going to play it, and I think that like our Melee viewer base, for the most part, just want to play Melee. Like I don't know, I think there's something to be said for it, but I think it's really hard to, I guess I don't even know what it really looks like, and I think that there's a way that it makes sense. Like you said, Genesis running other events, and I think that like putting top eights in the same venue, with the schedule that like lets people kind of watch each other's games. I think that's like that kind of thing makes a lot of sense. But I think it's hard to do it's not as simple as just like, well, we're just gonna like start streaming this game every now and then, and or whatever. Like it's I like that doesn't always have it doesn't always have the impact that you think it's going to, I guess.
Yeah, I understand that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
There's a couple games that are like in my head. Yeah, like Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, tried, done. Unfortunately, it didn't.
Yeah.
We weren't able to do much for that. What the games in my head that are circling, it's Project Plus, which is already like an even huger like legality, like gray line, and the second one is Rivals of Aether.
Right.
I feel like is at the moment like not only is it the most legal and safest way to go about things, like if we're going to encourage competition, it's also the most akin to Melee, and it has a lot more appealing. It has a lot of appealing aspects that are kind of like similar between the two games. I'm not trying to say like, oh yeah, we should encourage Rivals of Aether. What I'm saying is, though, it's like,
is there an opportunity there even?
Yeah.
Right? I think well, especially like I was talking about Rivals 2. Rivals 2, obviously there's not much info out, but there's like some little clips, and it does look very promising. And I do think there's going to be a big surge of interest when that game does drop. But yeah, with Rivals of Aether, Yeah, I mean, I would certainly. I do. I mean, I do think that like there's some cool opportunities there. Again, like with the Genesis thing, I think it's always cool to see like or even at like Riptide, like with Cake Assault's run. Um. Uh. Do I think it's? I don't think it's a. Okay, I'll put it to you this way. I don't think it's a responsibility or anything like that. But I think there's some opportunities there. Yeah, probably. Like I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe I should be doing streams with Cake Assault or something. Like I don't know. It's there's probably something there. You're probably right. I wouldn't call it a responsibility, and I don't necessarily think that we have the power to like inject a bunch of hype into any given game. But I do think there are some possibilities to put it to you that way. But it has to be authentic, right? It has to be authentic. Like people have to want it. It has to be done in an interesting way. And it can't feel forced, right? So it depends. It depends. But yeah. I mean, the short answer is I do think that we should. I do think, and for what it's worth, I think that we are doing more of it than we ever have in the past. Because I think that for many years, think about like the Melee Brawl days, right? Like we were very. There was a lot of vitriol even. And then Smash 4, I would say less vitriol, but there was a lot of indifference. And then you look at like Ultimate, and now, I don't know, Mango will stream Ultimate, right? Like Plup and Leffen are like actually good at it. Armada was actually good at it. HBox obviously is the biggest Ultimate streamer. So there's a lot more crossover than we've ever had before. Do I think that's probably good for both scenes at this point. Like I definitely see a lot of people in my stream that come by and they're like, yeah, I used to be an Ultimate player, and then I kind of got interested in Melee, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, and let's remember, we've talked about Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl several times, but everyone was streaming that thing when it came out. That was unheard of. Probably like 3 years ago. Like, why is everyone playing this non-Melee game? We're Melee players. I thought we only played Melee. And so, I think it is already sort of changing. So I hear your concern. I note it, but I also think that as we become more content focused, I think it is going to change more. So I don't think there's going to be an overnight thing, but I'll tell you right now, if Toph or myself or someone else cracks the code and we find the way to make the platform fighter stuff, like we become the Justin Wong and we're like, oh, let's go play this random platform fighter from like 1970 or whatever, and we start playing that and we're like, yeah, this is cool, let's find some broken stuff, and everyone watches it, we're going to keep doing it because that's what we want to do. So I mean,
right.
Yeah, it's either a matter of like someone finding the code or just time, and it will just kind of get better because we're just going to focus on more content. We're going to get bigger brands, and then the more we share the brands, the more it works out. So I think this is going to get better, and we already have evidence that it has as well.
Agreed. And I think that the reason you mentioned Justin Wong, the obvious answer, because you said platform fighters. Well, platform fighters are such a new genre. Like, okay, Smash 64 was a pretty old game, but on the flip side, I wouldn't say there has been much variety in platform fighters until quite recently, right? Like, what do we really have? We have like Slap City, Rivals, NASB, obviously Smash.
I think Brawlhalla's on there.
Brawlhalla's on there. But when you look at how many 2D fighters there are, for example, obviously it pales in comparison. So I do think that it's like, even from the perspective of like, can we do this yet at the scale that, PP just mentioned? I don't even think we can yet. So. Yeah, but it is something that I think will happen inevitably. And I do think platform fighters are going to get better and better. Something that I think is really interesting, this is kind of a tangent, something I think is really interesting is the fact that most platform fighters, when you really look at it, most platform fighters, even though the biggest platform fighter obviously is Smash Ultimate, most platform fighters, I don't know, my camera just froze, but most platform fighters seem to draw more inspiration from Melee than Ultimate, which maybe you wouldn't expect, right? Ultimate's the biggest platform fighter. Wouldn't it have the most, imitators or what have you? But you look at it, which is wave dashing. Rush on Revolt, wave dashing, right? And it's obviously very inspired by Melee. They say so. Project Plus, every Smash mod is, let's make this Smash game like Melee. Slap City, obviously, Melee-like movement. Brawlhalla a little less so, but even Brawlhalla is like pretty fast paced, and there's a lot of like, there's a ton of offstage combat, like, it's edge guarding focused. There isn't like ledge snapping and stuff like that. So I do think it's interesting, and I do think that as time and rivals, like you said. So I do think that as time goes on, there's going to be more and more of this, in particular with the Melee crowd, in a way that I don't think. Listen, I don't think we'd have that many Ultimate viewers, so I'll just go ahead and say it. I think Ultimate players sucked at NASP.
Weren't they stronger than the higher level players, stronger than the Melee players, or am I wrong about that?
What's his name? The K. Rool guy, Kirby Kid. He was cracked, and Cody was good. Cody was good. Got to shout out Cody. Cody was actually super legit in NASP. But I think the average Ultimate player wasn't as good.
I guess it was very stratified. I don't fully remember how it all went now.
Yeah. MKLeo played like Patrick. It's like, dude.
Yeah, that was tough.
I do kind of want to bring up though, like, well, that's kind of like a whole topic for another time. But I guess if we're going to kind of go down this tangent, then we should. In Nickelodeon All Stars, there's two thoughts in my head right now, but I'll go with this one because it's a current topic. Nickelodeon All Stars, like, there were several Ultimate players that did end up being like better than Melee players in that game, but was that the case with Project M? Like a game that was so akin to Melee that like, were any like diehard Project M pro players ever better than Melee players?
In
which game?
Yeah,
Project M, Project Plus. Let's say 3.6.
Oh, I didn't keep up with that very.
Then let's do 3.5 then.
Well,
because that was crazy. That was crazy. Yeah, for sure, there were better people in that game than Melee players. And Mewtwo flying around doing all kinds of stuff, man.
I don't know. I just didn't really see too much of that, at least from recent memory. I need to go back and watch that because that was how I started. But from my memory, like and recollection, it was like there was always a Melee player and that made it so far into a Project M tournament. For how little of them
there would be sometimes. There would be, yeah.
But anyways, my second thought is like you said that most like fighting game clones, most Smash clones in quotes are copying Melee. However, I think with Nickelodeon and especially the upcoming multiverses from Warner Brothers.
Oh yeah, I don't know that much about multiverses for Warner.
I feel like
I didn't get
they're kind of borrowing from Ultimate a lot more, not in the sense of gameplay, but in the sense of appeal of let's look at how many characters we can have in one jam-packed game.
Yeah.
Where it kind of feels like the actual gameplay itself is not the priority in terms of like those huge budget platform games. And I kind of think that's why they.
Well, I don't know if NASB is huge budget, but
you know what I mean. It's supposed to be huge budget, like
multiverses, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know that much about multiverses.
No, I don't really expect.
And I think their focus is very different. It's like teams oriented. It's definitely going to be a different vibe. But yeah, I would say the general case with most at least the existing platform fighters, they're really, even in the, I mean, you look at the game, you look at the trailer, like the teaser, not teaser, but the promo trailer they did for NASB, and they're like, it's got wave dashing, it's like you're not talking to old players when you say that. You're not talking to casuals because casuals. So it was this very direct kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting because I think that as like 10 years from now, I think there's going to be like a lot of platform. I think it's going to the genre will have come into its own in a way that I think for a long time was really just Smash Brothers. And I've heard people call platform fighters Smash likes. And for a long time, I thought that was a really good term, kind of like roguelikes, right? Because I mean, obviously Smash Brothers is the dominant platform fighter, but I do think that far enough into the future that might not even be the case anymore.
Sure.
So we'll see.
Which is like kind of like going, I really understand all of that. I'm just wondering, like, now that we're seeing so many games kind of just ultimately their main focus, I guess Nickelodeon also NASB was trying to really put that balance between competitive and casual appeal.
Yeah.
Especially with like setting and like characters and all that sort. And multiverses, it kind of like, and especially Brawlhalla, it kind of those two like really kind of make me like kind of like have like a red exclamation point over my head where it's like, are we kind of missing the point of what makes platform fighter games good? Because it's not the characters, like, because Brawlhalla has 70 different franchises in it.
Brawlhalla's got John Cena and who else is in that game? This is like, I don't know, this is like Call of Duty.
Holy cow!
And then I watch them fight, and they just pick up the little scythe thing, and they all look completely identical when they're fighting, and I'm like, I don't get it, but whatever.
So like, that's where I'm kind of at personally, because it's like, if we as Melee players encourage competition, we're gonna get more Melee-like games. I think.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. But again, I think it has to be authentic.
Yeah, I think like at the end of the day, I do think overall Melee players are more stubborn than they should be. I am calling myself out in that regard. Like I will admit, I'm pretty stubborn about Melee and like other types of games, but I do think that we should be more open-minded. That like not everything has to be like super akin to Melee, and we should welcome and encourage other games. But at the end of the day, we do have like that special place in our heart, and like I legitimately think that no other platform fighting game is as good as Melee. At the end of the day,
I think so too. I think so too.
And like, I think if you could at least even be as half as good as Melee, like in my opinion, I think PM was doing that. I think it was at least it was like pretty good, and like I would always encourage playing PM, and like I had Smash Fest where we would just only play PM. And like, if other games had that sort of feel, like I would super wholeheartedly like give it my fullest support. And for other games, like I will give it my support. But I'm not gonna fake that this is like my love of my life.
I think what we should do one of these weeks. I think we should get the other perspective. I think we should get a fighting gamer's perspective. One of these weeks we should get like like a fighting gamer on Radio Melee or something and talk to them about this, because I think that their perspective is just going to be different. Because most fighting gamers do play, like you said, PP with Justin Wong. And I am kind of curious about that. I do think it's a different mindset. I think for Melee players, we're like, because, it's like, I think there's also a hesitation, a tendency, and I know this is running for a bit, but the last point I want to make is, I think there's a hesitation for Melee players to pick up other games, because here's the thing, Melee's been around for 20 years. We know it's not going anywhere. We know that there's going to be tournaments. And I think for a Melee, like I sit here and I go, okay, if I practice Melee, then my practice is going to be valuable for probably years to come, right? Because Melee's not really going anywhere. But if I practice like some other game, like, I don't know, NASB, for example, right? Like there was never really that. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. Maybe Ludosity comes and announces some crazy esports circuit or something. But like, I right now I don't see the same level of hype, right? And I think it goes that way for a lot of games where it's like, dang, well, I can pick up a new video game, but like, if I get better at Melee, that's going to stick with me, and it's going to be valuable, and it's going to be long lasting. And I think for Melee players, at this point we're very used to that. We like the fact that we can rely on the Melee community being around for us and tournaments being around for us. In a way that it doesn't always feel that way with like smaller games or like games that are newer. That kind of just comes with the territory. I feel playing a 20-year-old game, right? And I'm sure it's like this for, I'm sure it's like this for people who similarly play games that have been out that long. I think that's a big part of the reason. It's not just that, we like Melee the most as a game. I think for some people, it's also just like as a competitive idea, it makes the most sense.
Right.
Yeah, I would like to say that I hesitated like pouring too much time in Nickelodeon because I was concerned about like maintaining.
You want to see where it's going? Yeah.
Not just that, like I know Melee will be around, and like I have to like still maintain my muscles in that game, my Melee muscles.
Yeah.
My parting thoughts, because I know this has been dragging on for too long. It's always super exciting when GG Melee talks about Project M, especially in the like the video where you guys ranked pop-offs, and I saw Professor Pro's pop-off again. Like,
that's a great one.
That was a really cool moment, I think, because I just love acknowledging, Project Plus like as a game, and but my parting thought is if the thought is like if it's as good as Melee, if it's as good as this, if it's as good as that, does that make bombshell for the parting thought, by the way, does that make Melee the pinnacle of platform fighting games?
At least right now. I think at least right now it does.
Well,
Think you could ever be overtaken in quants?
For the competitive side, I want to specify.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Ultimate right now is, I would say, the most popular. And I do think that out of all the post-Melee Smash games, I think it's the best one. So I think it's so subjective, right? But I'll leave you with this thought, which is that I will be going to Project M Theater next weekend, which is a summit-style event, and I am going to be commentating that. So
I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun.
Thank you very much for that.
16 of the top PM players in the world. And I don't know anything about any of their characters, so it's going to be great. You know my commentary is going to be wonderful. Anyway, any shout outs you want to do for us, Mav? Or, well, for yourself, really, not for us.
As of now, just shout out to Rivals of Aether. Their newest update has been incredible, and I've been loving it so far. It's just been the biggest influence in my my thought process right now. But shout out to Rivals, play Rivals, encourage Rivals, grind Rivals, and shout out to Project M. Thank you guys very much for having me. Sorry for taking up the whole podcast.
Oh, you're good, Mav. I mean, yeah, we're always happy. I mean, I think the discussion was really interesting. So have a good rest of your day in sunny SoCal.
It's been very nice meeting you all. Thank you.
Nice. All right. I think that was because today me and KoDoRiN do have to go at 4:30. So, well, before 4:30.
I mean, I know it was supposed to end. So. It was supposed to have already ended by now. So we certainly had lengthy calls today. So we're just. I'm not going to ask you anything, KoDoRiN.
Are every caller is this deep?
Not usually, but we thought we'd bring out the special guns for you today, KoDoRiN.
That's right. That's right.
It's time for your special question for everyone out there, the community voice. You've had plenty of time to think about it. What do you want to ask the people in the YouTube comments?
Absolutely. And what I want to ask from you guys is what top player have you wished that, like, oh man, I wish Mego was like a Sheik main or something, or
what top player do you wish played another character as a main?
Yes.
Or you could see there, yeah. Oh man, I've got some answers right now. Yeah, Mango Sheik. I'll actually just say Mango Sheik. I think Mango Sheik is dope. He did that wall jump fair against Pink Shinobi that one time.
Oh,
remember that?
Everyone knows Mango that Sheik one, right? KoDoRiN? You know about that one against Pink Shinobi. You know who that is.
Yeah.
Oh man, you know who I need?
Blair was roasting me in last week's TMT commentary that, like, I didn't know who Zoso was. I'm like,
wow.
Who's Zoso?
I mean, no, listen. But Zoso that's an East Coast name, ultimately. I think if you're West Coast, that's very forgivable and understandable.
You know, KoDoRiN. Yeah, well, shout outs to Zoso, and also shout outs to you and your Falco, KoDoRiN. That's who you should be making.
Don't bring that up, Yamasaki.
I've heard good things. I've heard good things about this Falco.
It's truly beautiful.
I don't know from Toph. I've only heard negative things, especially from this guy next to me. Really? I don't think he said a single nice thing about my Falco.
I think your Falco is beautiful, KoDoRiN, and I would never say otherwise.
Oh my god,
it's very fun to watch.
This is like hearing a Melee player calling certain other platform fighter games beautiful in the same.
That is not the way I mean.
I see.
Oh dear. All right. Well, after all that. All right. Well, anyway. Thank you so much, KoDoRiN, for your wonderful community voice. Thank you so much for sharing your time. I know you've got to go run TMT now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go commentate it.
And you're gonna go commentate it. So thank you both for sharing your time, wisdom, experience. Thank you guys out there for calling in and listening. This is Radio Melee signing out.
Yeah, it was fun.